In the past 3 months, Duolingo's stock has sunk over 30%. But is the market right? In this video, we're going to cover each bear thesis, including how Duolingo's reliance on ChatGPT could lower margins, how Duolingo's insanely strong marketing will begin to fade with the loss of a few key members, how AI startups could cause major competition for Duolingo, how Duolingo is primarily a language learning app and it fails to teach you a language, and finally that live translation will mean the end for all language learning. We're then going to confide in some of Peter Lynch's wisdom when it comes to growth stocks. Peter Lynch loved a good growth stock. In this book, One Up on Wall Street, he goes through what to look for in a growth stock. And last but not least, my valuation on the stock. Let's jump straight into it. So will the AI threat win? Will growth slow for Duolingo because of AI? Down 40% at the minute. Some bear theses state that reliance on ChatGPT threatens margins for Duolingo. While AI can help scale content, the cost of using third-party AI models like OpenAI is very expensive. If you don't know, Duolingo Max is a subscription for Duolingo. It costs a certain amount per month, and within Duolingo Max, they recently introduced the ability to have a live conversation with this Lily person, and you have a live conversation in another language. This is powered by OpenAI and ChatGPT, and it has recently had minor effects on the gross margins. You can see here it dropped from 73.2 down to 72%. Some people are saying that if Duolingo becomes overly dependent on AI from ChatGPT, ChatGPT could raise prices, leaving Duolingo with no control over their margins. Now, this is a potential issue for Duolingo, especially if they become fully reliant on OpenAI and ChatGPT. So what is the counter argument for this? Well, the counter argument states that ChatGPT will have little to no pricing power, and the LLMs are/will be a commodity. And there are many players in the space to choose from, and therefore, they will become a commodity, and it will be quite easy for Duolingo to switch to another LLM, considering they can all translate quite well. The supposedly OpenAI's ChatGPT is actually one of the stronger LLMs for translation. Another point that the counter argument makes is that premium users are happy to eat the cost for extra perks, including, the live translation tool, the live chats that you can have with AI. It takes nervousness out of speaking and getting something wrong, considering that you are talking to AI and not a personal tutor, which for a lot of users is actually a massive benefit. And people are going to be happy to pay this extra if the premium shows a significant increase in the amount of language learning that they are receiving. For me to show you the next bear thesis, I want to show you this clip.
I always say the reason why our TikTok was so successful is because...
This is Zaria Parvez, the creative genius behind Duolingo's viral TikTok account. She started the account in September 2021, making TikToks using Duo, the company mascot. Now it's the biggest brand account on the platform at 8.8 million followers and over 190 million likes.
I think the real tipping point for me was when TikTok mentioned that they had 1 billion users. And I remember so distinctly thinking, if people are on TikTok, they're not on our app. I always say our TikTok is like a sitcom. Everything we put out there is an episode. Some are amazing and go super viral. Some are just there to build the storylines. But it's something that can live and function as short form video content, even if it was to leave TikTok.
So now that you've seen that clip, you've got a little bit of context. And the truth is that Duo relied on strong marketing and still does rely on strong marketing. Duolingo's brand relies heavily on its viral meme-based marketing, which might not be a sustainable strategy in the long term, considering that the departure of key marketing personnel could lead to a less effective social media presence. Yes, that's right. Zaria Parvez, the woman you just saw in that video, says that she is leaving Duolingo. There is also another member from her team, I believe, that is leaving Duolingo, and this marketing team was actually quite a small, compact team. A lot of people are saying that this was Duolingo's A-star player, especially as she grew the account from literally 0 to 16.7 million followers. As you saw in the clip, it was only 8 million. It's a dated clip, but they have, achieved so much with this social media account. It has lowered acquisition costs for Duolingo so much. So a lot of the bears are saying that if Duo's brand loses its unique, quirky appeal, the company could face higher user acquisition costs. And also, And what caused the company to sell off recently was the recent kickback from the social media platform on TikTok relating to Duo's use of AI, and basically saying that they're replacing humans with AI, and that this is bad because it's supposed to be a human company and it's supposed to be all about language learning and interacting with other humans. So a lot of people on TikTok boycotted the company. Now, the counter argument to this would be that the company's brand identity and mascot, Duo the Owl, are now globally recognized. And this is true. I mean, 16 million followers, everyone knows Duo the Owl. This makes it sustainable and a strong brand even without the constant viral campaigns, which is true. At this point, everyone recognizes them, and the likelihood that a 16 million follower TikTok account is just going to fall off the face of the earth is probably very little. There are probably other marketers that will be able to keep up some form of virality. Maybe not as good as Zaria Parvez, but hopefully still in the game. Now, the other counter argument is that its primary growth driver is word of mouth, and the gamified product itself is designed to be highly engaging, which encourages users to share their progress and invite other friends, creating a strong flywheel effect. Like I mentioned just then, the Duo marketing team will be fine without a few players. They will still get high view counts considering the 16 million subscriber base. Now, I personally don't play or use Duolingo, but my family use it very heavily. Some of my family with over 1,000-day streaks, and they have a lot of their friends on there competing all the time, constantly on Duolingo. My brother told me to get it, so word of mouth is definitely a growth driver for Duolingo. I'm not going to get it because a lot of people say that it is emotional abuse. So moving on to the next bear thesis. Bear thesis is AI will cause a rise in competition. New competitors, including large tech companies like Google, can leverage powerful free AI to create a more effective and personalized learning tool. While this is exactly what's happened recently, it caused the stock to drop even further, is that Google released this little language lessons part of Google Translate, where you can take lessons and AI kind of creates these lessons for you. You can chat with the AI, and this faces a threat to Duo because it is free currently. So a lot of people are saying that Duo is going to be killed off because of this. These new services may offer features like live conversation partners and instant feedback, which could draw away users who are serious about learning. Another part of this thesis is that AI will make it easy to make an app like Duolingo, which basically means that with the rise of AI coding, or vibe coding as they call it, it lowers the barrier to entry for app creation and language learning tools. And this is what the bear thesis states. Now, the counter argument to this is that competitors will not be able to match the level of gamification and addictiveness of Duolingo. Duolingo has conducted hundreds of thousands of A/B tests to keep high engagement. From the app icon's facial expression to the streak system, everything is refined. And this is what I mean when I say it is emotional abuse. If you don't go on the app, the app icon will change. 1 minute it's really cute and you really want to go on it because it's a cute looking app. Next minute you haven't done your streak and the guy's mad at you, he's angry, he's looking at you, and all of these minor things have been hundreds of thousands of A/B tests have been refined to make sure you're on the app, to keep you on the app. There's also the energy system they recently introduced, which basically keeps you engaged. You don't want to lose your energies, just like you don't want to lose your hearts. You want to be able to compete against friends. Everything is tested over many years of testing. The other counter argument to this is that Duolingo is now a trusted brand. They've been around since 2011 and have become the household name in language learning. Even if somebody built a clone, most learners would still download Duolingo first. Now, if you were to think of a language learning app, what would you think of first? Maybe you'd think of Babbel. I'm not 100% sure, but I know Duolingo would come to my mind first. Maybe that's just because my family use it. The other counter argument would be that Duolingo Max tier, which is obviously paid, although not free, keeps them ahead with AI. Now, if you're using Duolingo already, what's the likelihood that you would just start paying to use the live translation tools within Duolingo, especially as they're trying to gamify everything, trying to keep you engaged, trying to lower the barrier to learning a language. The next bear thesis is Duolingo doesn't teach you the language. Some users may not see a direct path to fluency, which can lead to higher user churn over time. And by user churn, I mean users leaving the platform. And this can be seen recently, actually, in the monthly active users. It actually declined quarter over quarter, which is the first time we've actually seen that. Now, this could be due to the huge boycott recently on TikTok. We'll have to see in the next quarterly earnings. The bears would say there are more effective ways of learning a language, and while the app is great for beginners, more advanced learners may find the content too basic. They'd also say that some users have raised concerns about the quality of the AI-generated lessons that Duolingo has recently been creating, especially for less popular languages, which could negatively impact the app's reputation for educational quality. Now, this is something I do think they should keep an eye on. They shouldn't go too heavy too quickly. They should monitor what the AI is generating in the lessons, especially as all of their other lessons are so refined. They spent so long refining them and making sure everything's right and the quality of them are high. So the counter argument to this would be that Duolingo's primary value proposition isn't to make users fluent, it's to make language learning accessible, fun, and habit forming. It really lowers the barrier to entry to learning a language, and for millions of people, Duolingo serves as an excellent starting point. The company's value is in its retention and engagement, not necessarily its ability to produce fluent speakers. They'd also say the company's expansion into new verticals like math, chess, and music shows that its core strength is not just language instruction, but its ability to gamify and make learning any subject enjoyable. Yes, they recently introduced chess. You can see over here on the left. I'm actually quite intrigued by this. I kind of want to give this a go. So we'll see by next video whether I'm actually playing Duolingo or not. Now, the next bear thesis I'm just going to cover briefly. It affected the stock very briefly 2 days ago, and it is that live translation makes language learning obsolete. So if you didn't see, Apple released the new AirPods, and they can basically translate as you're walking around in a foreign country and as you're speaking to someone. So a lot of people were selling Duolingo stock that day. Despite it rising up, it fell pretty sharply on the release of this. Now, the counter argument to this would be that people learn languages for personal growth, career opportunities, and cultural immersion, not because of the lack of translation devices. I think this is totally true. There's been live Google Translate for a while now, so I really don't think that this is actually an issue for Duolingo. Now, before we look at some of the financials for Duolingo stock and I give my valuation, I just want to confide in some of Peter Lynch's wisdom on growth stocks. This can really set the tone for picking a growth stock. Now, Peter Lynch said, the fast growers, these are among my favorite investments, small, aggressive new enterprises that grow at 20 to 25% a year. If you choose wisely, this is the land of 10 to 40 baggers, and even the 200 baggers. Now, I do not think that we're going to be seeing 200 baggers out of Duolingo. I'd be hesitant to see a 10 bagger from here. But nevertheless, it is a growth stock. It is growing fast, as we'll see in a minute when I show you the financials. So Peter Lynch said, for as long as they can keep up, fast growers are the big winners in the stock market. The trick is figuring out when to sell them and how much to pay for the growth. The key to making money in growth stocks is not to get scared out of them. Fast growers will always look overpriced. If you wait for the PE to come down, you'll miss the ride. If the PE ratio is less than the growth rate, you may have found yourself a bargain. This highlights his growth at a reasonable price or GARP strategy. Now, I'm sad to say that Duolingo does not fall into this category. Its PE ratio is very, very high, as we'll see on the next page. Make of these what you will. These are just some quotes that I took from the book One Up on Wall Street. If you want to read the book, you can buy it using my link in the description. So to me, Duolingo looks overvalued on a PE basis, on an earnings basis, but undervalued on a free cash flow basis. So it's got 110 PE ratio at its current price and a 2.53% free cash flow yield, which I think is quite low, considering we've got a 40% revenue growth year over year when we're looking at revenue trailing 12 months. And they've been quite consistent with this, really. It's been a slow drop. Actually, over the last quarter, it's actually picked up slightly. But I do believe that Duolingo could probably keep this up. It all depends on how successful they are with their social media, and I really do believe that because of how much they've grown on social media. That is essentially very low acquisition costs, because TikTok is just pushing out their content to loads of people without them having to pay for ads. So when we look at my valuation, I have made some key assumptions, and that is that revenue growth will be 27% over the next 2 years. And why am I only looking 2 years out? Well, for me, it's because I think that game and kind of stocks based around games are actually very difficult to predict. It could be that Duolingo is a fad and it's going through a stage of mad growth because it's a game and it's very popular right now, but maybe it's less popular in 2 years' time. I find that very hard to predict. I do think that they're going to continue to be popular over the next 2 years, and I think they're going to continue to grow as it forms a habit in people, and it's subscriber-based revenue. So we should see some form of consistency, but I'm only going to look 2 years out. So over those 2 years, I'm saying revenue growth will be 27%. This is quite conservative, obviously based off the 39% that we're putting in at the minute. I'm saying that it's going to drop down to the 27% mark, which is actually off the scale here. Now with the free cash flow margin, I've said that the free cash flow margin will actually increase. Here you can see the free cash flow margin each year actually increasing rapidly from pretty much nothing all the way up to 36.5%. Now I'm only saying that it will go up by another 3.5% in over the next 2 years, which is only 1.75% each year. I think this is quite conservative in terms of free cash flow margin growth. And with these assumptions, we can use my free cash flow growth calculator, put in the current share price of $312. Now I've made the assumptions that Duolingo will actually dilute the shareholder 4.5% each year. This is a negative, and hence why I've got negative 4.5% for the buyback. So in my calculations, the shareholder will be diluted by 9% over the 2 years. 9% in total, that is. And obviously, I've just stated the revenue CAGR of 27, free cash flow margin of 40 over 2 years, and its current free cash flow yield at 312 is 2.27. This actually counters what I said here, 2.53, and that's because I wrote these numbers down at different prices. The prices fluctuated quite a lot during making this presentation. If we were to take these assumptions into account at the current free cash flow yield of 2.27%, or if you use price to free cash flow, it is 44 times, we get a share price of $501, which is a 26.84% CAGR, so that you'll get 26% every year for 2 years. Now, I'm going to be slightly more conservative and say that Duolingo is more likely to trade at a 2.7% free cash flow yield. Even with that, you are going to get outperformance with 16.41% CAGR over those 2 years. If you want to be even more conservative and say that it's going to trade at a 3% free cash flow yield or a 33.3 price to free cash flow, you're looking at a 10.44% return from here, which is probably going to be in line with the market. Now, personally, I actually bought into the stock, and I bought at slightly lower price of $280 per share, not quite the $312 we see at the minute. If you want to have a look at my portfolio, these are my portfolio holdings. Now, obviously, I bought in at 280 and my returns are higher because of this. If we're being conservative and looking at the free cash flow yield of 2.7%, I'm seeing a 22.88% CAGR from here with my assumptions that I have made there. Also, if I'm being even more conservative and saying it trades at 3%, I'm seeing 16.58% CAGR. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing both sides of the argument for Duolingo. None of this is financial advice. Remember to always do your own research. If you enjoyed the video, please click on the notification bell so you'll see my next video pop up. See you later, guys.
I'm hopping out Ferrari. My house is 3 stories. I'm still independent cause Jive couldn't afford me. The meetings were boring. For real, I was snoring. The VP was fine, yeah, she treated me kinda corny.